I think we will start now. Oh, that's not actually here, we'll start. We're fortunate today to have Saundra Bryant, who is the executive director of the All People's Community Center, which is located about 3 or 4 miles south of LA line. We're at the intersection of San Pedro Avenue and Washington. I was going to give you this little introduction, so I looked at this book. Sandy's award is too long. But I will say, starting, we have a little here that's really committed to our communities and to the larger environment of LA. She started at All People's Community Center when she was 2 years old. She was raised in that area. There at the and then went on to high school and Cal Poly, Mona, University of Tennessee, or MSW. Came back. I guess they started looking for again working there, and she's been the executive director for 30 years.
Wow, thank you.
And among all of her awards, I mentioned a couple. One was she was the first female member of the LA Host Lions Club. And then she's been the first female president of the club, and she has a award for the highest honors in Lionism. So we have her the Lionism.
Lioness.
She's also won awards from the National Child Labor Committee, the California Association of Interrelations Organizations. She was the pioneer woman of the 9th Council District of twice. And no one asked what a pioneer woman is in downtown LA. It's like just a covered wagon, but I think there's more reason for that. She's won awards from the Methodist Church. She won the Martin Luther King Disciple of the Year award presented by the Christian Church Disciples of Christ. She's been on the board for the Asian American Drug Abuse Program. She's worked with the LA Police Department as an advisor. And she's been a member of the church, All People's Christian Center, which is a disciple church, founded the center 80 years ago. Those are right now. And she's a member of that church and also on the board. She's a member of the Disciples, where she's on the board of directors of this region. She's also on the served as the vice moderator part of the Christian Church. That's like in the U.S. and Canada. And she's member of the board of directors and the administrative committee of the denomination. So she's been really active not only in the community but also in her church and life and so forth. So welcome.
Thank you, Rich, for that introduction. I'm very shy, so all of the accolades, while I'm proud of them, you know, I'm just not a big boastful person, so forgive me. Again, it's a pleasure to be back here. It's been a while since I've had a chance to be with you, and so for some of you, as Rich mentioned, All Peoples grew out of the tragic relocation of Japanese Americans. This was the Japanese American Institute and Church, and it was a mission center of the Christian Church Disciples of Christ. And we know what happened in 1942. So that left a vacant building, and the Christian Church still wanted to have a presence in that community. And so Dan Janan, who was our founder, just graduated from the seminary, and he had a vision that a church should be a multiracial, multi-ethnic, welcoming of everyone. And that fit in what they wanted to see in that community, because while the Japanese Americans were taken away, that left African Americans, Armenians, Latinx persons primarily from Mexico, descendants of Mexico. Also, there were Anglos and there were Chinese. So it was a multi-racial community at that time. And when Dan and his wife Frances arrived, they went door to door, introducing themselves and talking about the new ministry that was starting and talking to the individuals who were mostly women because the men were away fighting in the war. And he said, what do you need? And they said, we need childcare and we need a place for our young people, for our youth, because they're hanging out on the streets. And we're concerned that by them just hanging out with no purpose, that they're going to get in trouble. And so that was the beginning of All Peoples 80 years ago. It started with a cooperative daycare program and then with youth clubs. And our name comes from Isaiah 56:7. It said, my house shall be a house of prayer for all peoples. And so during that time, after the war, Japanese Americans came back and the church was chartered in 1946. And the community has changed over the years, as all communities have changed. So initially, while the community was predominantly Japanese, it transitioned in the 50s and 60s to predominantly African Americans. African Americans coming from the South and settling here in South Central Los Angeles. And then in the late 70s and 80s, the community became predominantly Latinx with the transition from Mexico and then from South America, Central America, Guatemalan, Salvadorian. And so we have changed as the community has changed, and we will continue to do that. What does our community look like now? The area served by All Peoples, the median family income is about $28,000 a year. 30% of the families have an income that is below the poverty level. The median family income in Los Angeles County, in case you're interested, is about $62,000 a year. And to put it in even a broader context, 12.2% of the families in California and 11.3% of families in the nation have an income below the poverty level. This means that in our community, that we have individuals that are primarily working poor. And our families face 3 to 4 times the poverty rate of families in LA County and the state of California. Our unemployment rate is about 9.8% compared to 10% with the county. In terms of educational attainment, among the residents, 30.7% of the 18 to 24-year-olds and 63% of adults age 25 and older have less than a high school diploma. Only 2.1% of adults in our South Central area have a bachelor's degree, and 100% of the students attending schools in our area are eligible for free and reduced cost scholarships. The community is predominantly Latinx, 89.9%, with African Americans being the next largest group at about 8.3%. So All Peoples is open to all residents, and our largest population, quite naturally, would be the Latinx community. So that kind of describes the area as that we live in. And then on top of that, we have the pandemic, right? We received the shutdown order as everyone else in March of 2020 and started to prepare our staff to work at home, and that lasted 1 day. Because we found out the next day that as a family source center, we're one of 16 in the city of Los Angeles, that we were all required to stay open. Our money and our income comes from the federal government, from HUD. And while California and Los Angeles had shutdown orders, the federal government did not have that. In order to still receive funds to run the center, we would have to be physically open. So that meant that all of our staff have worked for the last 2.5 years during COVID. But we had an advantage, I think, in most centers, that we had a gymnasium. And so by having the gym, we turned the gym into a interview area for communities, so they didn't have to stay in parking lots or outside. We were able to set up 13 different stations and had all of the PPE equipment, the gowns, the masks, everything, the screens, in order to provide safety for both our staff and for community members. During that time, we provided rental assistance, we provided utility assistance, we provided grocery gift cards, we provided cash cards, any program that the city of Los Angeles, if you heard about the Angelino funds, where the mayor raised an enormous amount of money in order to help individuals, we were part of that process to make sure that that was going to community members. During that time, we could have anywhere from 75 to 80 appointments a day for individuals coming in that were looking for services. During the pandemic, I'm sure you also know, it was very difficult for our children and our youth because of distance learning. A lot of that had to do with it being new for everyone, having distance learning, but that was complicated by the fact that we have multiple families living in a single dwelling. They may have a room. And so when you start looking at the bandwidth that's needed for multiple families in a home, it's just not possible. Think of just sometimes even in my house when it's just me and my husband, you know, I want to tell him to get off. So I can, get what I need to do because it's not working fast enough. So having children and all of the children having to be on the computer at the same time, those were challenges. We were helping with some providing hotspots for individuals. We were also helping in cases where, even though they may have received a tablet from the school, there were problems or issues. So we also purchased laptops and had laptops available. But the other challenge had to do with our families. About half of our families lost their jobs because they were working in the hospitality industry. They were working in restaurants. They were domestics. They were working in the garment district. And all of those businesses shut down during that time. We do serve a large undocumented population, so they weren't eligible for unemployment or other benefit services. And that's one of the reasons why that they turned to All Peoples, because they knew that we would be able to help them or support them in whatever ways that was possible. A lot of the programs that we were operating did not require status in order to be able to support those families. So there were challenges. We closed our group programs, our classes, our ESL classes, our parenting classes, any type of group activity, we closed that because we were concerned about the safety of our community members and did not want to help to spread the virus. So we looked at virtual tutoring. We provided virtual tutoring to the students that were participants in our program. But in some cases, it just wasn't possible, it didn't work. We had students who were living in motels. And, you know, with hotspots, you would have to have an owner that agrees to the hotspot, where the motel owner would not agree to having that hotspot. So for those students, we did have one-on-one where they were able to come into the center and our staff were able to work with them. Or we had students that their parents maybe were monolingual speaking, and so they weren't able to support them. But there were multiple challenges, and we would make a special accommodations for that student to be able to come in and work one-on-one with staff. Also, during that time, with the virtual tutoring, we found that for our ESL classes and our citizenships classes, that while that was virtual, attendance dropped because it was much more difficult for parents. If you can imagine, even if you're at home, your children are on computers from, say, 8 o'clock in the morning till 2 o'clock in the morning. Asking you to then go on the computer from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock for an ESL class, it was just overwhelming. And so many of them said, we'll wait until we come back in person because it's just more than we can handle at the time. One of the other areas that was critical during COVID had to do with food insecurity. We were already living in an area that is food insecure. So you can imagine what happens when individuals lose their income. Our food program started out with 60 families pre-COVID, maybe coming in every week, and it jumped to 150 families once COVID started. Prior to the COVID, we were able to, our families came in once a month for food. And we offer fresh produce, food products, meat products, staples. And after COVID happened, you know, and looking at it, we said that's not enough. So we opened it up to where families can come in every week. And we have continued that because now that we are, I won't even say transitioning out of COVID, I don't know what it is. It's not really post-COVID, but it's a new way, but we're also looking at a recession, right? And so that need for families to be able to come in on a weekly basis is still there. And so we continue to allow that to happen. In addition to the food products, so we also have hygiene products, we have diapers that, particularly during COVID, diapers were really hard to come by. So we, if you look at our stage area, the stage area is full of boxes of diapers in all sizes because that's what's necessary for the community. One of the other things that happened, we were in a staff meeting, and this was probably the first year, almost the end of the first year. One of the staff said, you know, I think that when I see the people standing in line, I see some of the elderly people standing in line, and it really is disheartening to me because, you know, they're having to stand longer because of the number of people. But also I'm noticing that some people who usually come elderly are not coming. And we started talking about that, and so the staff members said, well, is there any way we could deliver the food? And so we talked about it some more, and so I said, well, I need someone to volunteer to deliver the food because, you know, we don't have resources for that type of program. And the person that brought up the issue said, I'm willing to do it. And so we started with delivering probably to about 12 seniors that first week. And then it started to grow and people started to talk about it. And so we were doing 3 days a week, and he was able to do 12 people each day. I was talking to one of our funders, and they were saying, what are you doing during COVID? And when I told them about it, they said, oh, well, we'll give you $50,000 because we think this is a great program and a great idea. And I was like, okay, I'll take it. And so that's how our senior delivery program grew, because we were able to hire the staff, to pay the staff to do it. We were able to buy the food because this was in addition to what we were already doing. And then we met another friend, which I'll tell you more about, Angel City, who was the new women's soccer team. They have just been tremendous partners to all peoples, and they heard about it, and one of their sponsors was DoorDash, and so DoorDash came to us and said, we have a program called Project DoorDash, and we'll deliver all of your food to your seniors as long as you buy the food and everything. And I'm like, okay. So that program grew, and today we're serving about 180 seniors. Because all we have to do is buy the food and have our staff put it together. And so there's, the money is there to support the staff doing that. And we've been able to grow and looking at ways to expand that program. So that's what happened during COVID with our senior food delivery. And so kind of out of that partnership with Angel City and DoorDash and the soccer team, and then they came back and they said, you know what, we really like what you're doing around food insecurity. We would like you to do about 80,000 meals, right? And I'm like, okay. And so they said, well, we'll give you, they initially said, we'll give you $80,000, $1 a meal, and I'm like, okay. And I said, that's really good. I said, but one of the things, that you should also consider when increasing like that, we need the support to be able to do that. It just doesn't happen without, staffing and all of that putting together. And so they said, okay. And so they added an additional $60,000 for us to be able to administer that program. And so as I was thinking about it, I said, wow, okay, this is really good. We're increasing not only for our seniors, but our food program. And so we had this senior food program, we have our Friday delivery program, we had this money that was going to help us to expand. And then we had another group that joined us and said, we want you to, we have our Best Start parents, parents for children in elementary school. And if you will work with us so that they can come, we have about 80 families that come twice a month to pick up food boxes. So we have all these different food programs, and then I have one staff person supervising, another one, I said, we need a food security department where we can combine all of our food programs together, and then we can look at that and see what we're able to do. So I want to show you our first video because I found a gem to hire. Her name is Capri. And okay, I'm going to zoom here. Thank you for technology.
Rick is really not Rick. Kevin is really the director of this whole program.
Thank you for technology and Kevin. Pull it back.
I love working here. I've always had a passion for tackling food insecurity. When I was a child, there were times where, we didn't have enough to eat. We partner with DoorDash with the work that All Peoples are doing. They're kind of filling in that gap where we're able to provide food for families and making sure, not a child or anyone in the community goes hungry. We deliver to around 179 seniors a month. We have our supplementary food program. This is open to the public. Anyone can come in and ask for food. And then we also do food delivery for our residents as well. It makes me smile knowing that we're doing the work that we can, so you don't have to make that decision anymore on food or bills. No one else has to go through what I went through.
That's great. No, wrong one. Oh, okay. All right. So having with you here has been really great, and I can share with you from our goal, I told you was 8,000 meals. From April to October 31st, we have served over 359,000 meals.
Thank you.
And so it has been such a wonderful partnership with them, and they're so excited and looking forward to continuing that because we've exceeded our goals. I mean, and at the same time that we're ecstatic about exceeding our goals, it's disheartening knowing that the reason for that is because of the need. And so the program is growing and we're looking at being able to expand to Saturdays because we know that we have parents who are working and the program is on Friday mornings for the regular food program, and so they're not able to come in. But that is one of the things that grew out of, we've always served, we've always provided food to our families, but we had to re-envision how we're delivering food to our families. Not only for the seniors, but also for those persons with disabilities are able to sign up for the food delivery program. One of the other things that has happened, and this is related to All People's overall programs, we look at addressing generational poverty. And one of the things that's important that we've been doing is financial literacy, as well as financial coaching for our adults. And through, again, our partnership with Angel City, one of their partners is crypto, which I'm gonna say, I don't know a lot about cryptocurrency. I probably will learn a lot about it during the year, but they gave us a little bit of pause when they first said, well, one of our partners is crypto. And I said, all right, okay. And what is it that you'd like to do with us with crypto? Because we're not looking at someone to get our families to invest in cryptocurrency. Right now, our resources are very limited, so we don't want to do that. And they said, no, that's not what we're looking at. But what we are intrigued by is you talking about financial literacy and financial empowerment. And so we came up with a pilot program, starting with our children in our summer day camp program. And so what we said to them, it was 5 weeks, that if you save $1 a week, at the end of the 5 weeks, we will match you 2 to 1. And so they did that, and the kids, we had about 50 kids participate. And so at the end of the summer, they all came in and they got there 2 to 1, and they were excited, and their parents were excited. And so then we said, okay, they really like that program. So they said, well, let's keep it going. What can you bring us where we will expand it? So what we decided to do for this Christmas, the 20 weeks, starting in August when the kids went back to school, for our middle school and our fourth and fifth graders. The fourth and fifth graders, it's $1 a week. The middle school is $5 a week. But incorporated in that is a 45-minute lesson on financial literacy. We use the Smart Money by the FDIC curriculum that's targeted for kids. So the idea is that they're learning about money, they're learning about savings. For the middle school students, they'll have $300 at the end of the 20-week period. And it reminded me of remember the Christmas club, you know, that they used to have with the base and stuff. I remember doing that as a kid. And so it's that same concept, only I didn't get the education about money, but I did save and was excited that I would have money to do with what I wanted to do or have for savings or help my family. Again, it's teaching them about saving. Part of the goal of the program will work with the high school students in January, but the other part of the program is that we want the students to be able to share what they're learning with the parents. And then we have another project, and this is with DoorDash, where it's a savings program. We have our mothers group, it's our mother support group, and it's 14 women. And they have come together. It started out as supposed to be a savings and loan program, but they decided they wanted to make it a savings program as well as a community program, as opposed to a loan program. So that in emergencies, they would be able to help one another if someone had a health emergency or anything that could happen, but the group would decide. The group manages, they have their own treasurer, the president, and then every other week, they also go through financial literacy, financial coaching as part of the program. These women are incredible. They are my advisors to all things that I do at All Peoples. They come to me and tell me about programs and needs of the center. I go to them when I have questions about or ideas about things that we want to do. They have learned we have a camp program, a weekend camp. And the first 2 years, they were participants. And after that, they became part of the planners and part of the facilitators. So this particular group, their savings goal for the year is $15,000. Each of them has an individual goal. And they have been saving that, plus they have part of that will be the community pot. And then we're looking at them also being able to offer classes to the other parents because they're learning about savings and money. And part of the piece with crypto is after the women went through the classes with us, they were interested in learning about investments and what that means. And so the crypto employees are going to come in and not selling them on the crypto, but talking about investment and what that means. And some of our staff have even shared, because a lot of our staff are from the community, that this is something that maybe they did not remember talking about with their families, about money. And so it's really exciting and important for us to be able to expose our youth and our community members to money. And it's not that you have to have $1 million in order to invest, but it's a matter of you can save $1 or $2, and what happens to that money as you save it. You set a goal for what you want to buy, or you set a goal for what you want to do. So those are some of the kinds of things that we're doing with our youth. We also had a lot of donated computers, I guess, because people weren't working or they were working at home. So the computers in the office became obsolete and they gave them to us. And our staff started putting the computers together. And then when we brought our kids back on campus, they started helping the kids in order to put a computer together, and then they could take their computer home. So to date, we've refurbished over 100 computers that have been given to our youth, to our families, and then there are some other nonprofit communities in the area that didn't have resources, and we've been able to share that with them as well. So the other programs, I talked about these because these are the ones that kind of came out of COVID, but the other programs that the center is involved in, we're a WorkSource Center partner, and so we help with individuals finding employment. We also have our parenting classes. We have a domestic violence support group. We have ESL classes that they have just started back on site 2 weeks ago, which is great. And citizenship classes we hope to start again in January. We also provide immigration services. We partner with Cadescent Legal Services to provide that to families. We have counseling, we have case management services. We also have a retired senior volunteer program where we have our seniors that volunteer with individuals in our organizations in the community, whether it's providing food, or we have our aging in place where they're calling other seniors to see how they're doing, how they're surviving with COVID. Do they need resources? And we have resources available for them. Again, all of this is built around building a stronger community for our center. I wanted to also share, how's my time? Oh, okay, good. I wanted to share another video with you, and Kevin, I'm gonna try to do it right. Here.
Brochure or program of their
Share
most
screen.
recent fundraising event, before pictures of them. Check them out.
Okay, and, here's our financial. Just so we can-
Working with all peoples, I've been here, it's gonna be 12 years, but I practically grew up here. I've been here since I was 8 years old. All the programs I run, I used to be a part of those. My name is Daisy Hernandez, and I'm the youth director at All Peoples. With the funding that you all provided, we were able to start this program, and it's actually working out awesome. We already have, I think, over like $300 of savings with the kids in summer camp. The little ones bring in $1 a week for 5 weeks, and then we match them 2 to 1. So by the end, they'll have $15. And then the older ones, they're doing $5 a week for 5 weeks. So then they'll have 75 at the end of the summer. And eventually it's teaching them how to manage money, how to save money, how to budget. The ultimate goal is for them to kind of be able to learn about it, but also teach it with the other community members. You know, for the little kids, it's like, oh, why say $5? You can say $5, right? So that can also, it builds a habit, it builds a pattern in our community. We're looking at doing some workshops around parents and kids. It's wonderful to teach a little kid, hey, you need to be saving money, right? And telling the parent as well. But I think when we put them together, it's embedded more and they can work together towards those savings goals.
Oh, that's true. So I was mentioning the other services and programs. Out of the COVID experience, I'm sorry, I think I forgot to mute something. I hear this music. It's prohibited. Oh, okay. All right, okay. So out of COVID, a lot has happened for us. Our agency has grown in terms of staffing because of the resources and because of the programs that we have been providing. So right now, we have about 42 staff. Right, yes, I know, and as Rich said, we're celebrating 80 years, and I was looking back 80 years ago at the information, and there was Dan and his wife Frances, and maybe 3 other people, and their budget was like about $3,500 or something, like that. And today, 80 years later, our budget is about 3.4 now. And as I said, we have 40 staff members. And so I think we celebrated our 80th anniversary a couple of weeks ago. And I think about Dan and Frances because I actually had the opportunity to meet them. And I knew them, and think about the seed that they planted 80 years ago, and for everyone to see what that has turned into for the community, and how it has grown, and how we are a major hub in that South LA community. Working in partnership with other organizations, which is always important because we can never do it alone, but having that sense of community. Rich said I started when I was 2, I did. And actually it's 39 years this year. It'll be 40 years next year, and I'm going to retire next year. But I have really spent all of my life at All Peoples. It is the place that nurtured me, that supported me, supported my family. When I was in college, we ran into financial situation, and my mom went and she had to borrow money from All Peoples to make sure that I stayed in college. So coming back and giving to All Peoples as I have for the last 40 years, it's been very personal. It's not really been a job. It's been a calling. It's been able to provide the same opportunities for youth and their families that I feel like was provided for me and my family. And so many people who were on staff there, who were mentors to me, who were parents to me, who were everything, that even when I would mess up, that continued to encourage me and continue to support me. That has been my life's work, of being able to do that same thing. And so to see the fruits of all that labor coming together as we celebrated the 80th anniversary, it really meant a lot. It really meant a lot to me. So I'm going to stop here in case you have questions or things that I did not cover. But again, I really enjoyed being with you and sharing with you about what we are doing in sport, and to thank you because it is because of you guys as well, your support that we receive, that makes a big difference in what we're able to do.
Can you speak a little bit about after-school programs?
Sure. So our after-school program, now that we're back on site, the students come in Monday through Friday. Generally, the students get out of school at 2:30. We're about a block very long block. So 2 blocks away from one elementary school, and about 4 blocks away from another elementary school. So many of the students, they walk over from school, or their parents will bring them, or the babysitter will bring a group over. We provide homework assistance, we provide arts and crafts activities, we do cooking, nutrition, education. We also have the financial literacy that I talked about. One of the other things that one of the other staff was interested in, the stock market. It's some app called Stockwatch, I think. And they were doing that with the kids over the summer. So they would get a certain amount of money and then they can invest that money. They had a contest to see who grew the most amount of money. But again, it's just exposing them to these different activities. We also, I mentioned the gym, we have a recreational program. Right now, it's just our kids in the gym, but we are part of a sports league. So with other agencies in the area, we do soccer, volleyball, and basketball. So once, I don't know, once things begin to open up, I know the numbers are going up, so it'll probably be next year before we'll be able to add the sports activity. In addition to that, we are doing virtual tutoring still because there are some families that really like the virtual tutoring. So we have virtual tutoring as well as on-site tutoring in the after-school program. And then one of the other pieces, we're partnering for the summer youth employment program, and although it says summer, it's really year-long. So we are providing young people with 120 hours of paid work experience. This year, I think we had about 55, 60 youth that went through the summer youth paid experience. It's a great opportunity for young people, and the thing about it, we've hired probably right now on staff, we just had someone, we have about 6 or 7 staff that started out as summer youth workers and have, you know, shown the leadership skills and all of that, and positions became open and we hired them. So,
Sandy,
yes.
about your ESL classes, do you have citizenship classes as well as?
We do. We have ESL classes. The ESL classes are taught by the instructors from LA Trade Tech, and then from ELAC, East LA, there is an instructor who we're looking at January to come back for citizenship classes. So we offer both.
Are they at night?
They are in the evening, yes, yes. With ESL though, we started a morning class. We don't know how that's going to work out. When you work with the colleges, you have to have at least 25 to 30 students in order for them to provide the instructor. So the morning class, it started out kind of high, but the numbers are going down, so we'll see how that works out. But definitely the evening class is 6 to 8:45, 2 nights a week.
Are they in person or remote?
These are in person now. We just went back to in person because our parents, it was just difficult to do the online classes. So yes.
Is all this English speaking? All your classes are English speaking classes?
No, the ESL is the English is a second language. So these are for primarily monolingual individuals that are coming to learn English. But all of our staff is 80% bilingual. And so with all of our programs and activities, it depends on the group. Like we have an English speaking parenting class, and then we also have a Spanish speaking parenting class. So it depends on the group as far as the language is concerned. Yes.
I'm curious about what you did about vaccinations. I mean, many schools had requirements that people had to be vaccinated.
So initially, for the summer day camp program, we did for this year say that students had to be vaccinated. We tried to do summer day camp the year before. This is before vaccine was available for children, and we could only get through 1 week because we had a family, unfortunately, that tested positive for COVID, and they were in different classes. And so we just had to close it down. So for summer day camp, unfortunately, we did have to do that. We had some families that, you know, they understood, but they weren't happy about it, but they understood why we needed to do it. So the kids weren't able to come. Right now, we do ask for the vaccination. And all of our staff have to be vaccinated or they have to test every week. And I think we only have one staff person that for religious reasons has not been vaccinated. But we also hosted the vaccination clinics. We also, especially for our seniors, when we first started, did a lot of phone calls and made sure they had transportation to be vaccinated. And then for our staff weekly have to submit a questionnaire. We've been fortunate that we have not had to shut down the entire center, but we have had, staff members and families that, have tested positive for COVID. Yes.
There's a question on Zoom, if Sheila wanted to say something.
Hi, yes, I was going to ask, do you have any field trip programs like coming to the beach? That's for the kids and parents or whatever.
It's funny you mentioned that. We actually did a beach cleanup in June. We went to Dockwilder Beach. That was a partnership with the Jewish Federation. So we did a cleanup at the beach. In summer day camp, we did take the kids to the beach. Right now it's pretty cold, but we do have that. And actually, Sheila, we also have our field trips, college tours. And so we were able to start that again. The students went to UCLA, I think yesterday. They went to UCLA, but we take both the students and the parents on the college tour. And they've done Cal State Dominguez this year and Cal State Northridge.
Have they ever been to Disneyland?
No, Disneyland is about $145 a person.
No, I know.
And so, no, Disneyland, we've gone to, what is it?
Magic Mountain.
No, not even Magic
Knott's
Mountain.
Berry Farm.
No, what is it?
Knott's Berry.
Not Water World, one of the water.
Oh, water slide kind of thing.
Yeah, one of the water parks that's about 30, 35. We were able to do that, but yeah, as a kid, people would take us to Disneyland. I can't afford to take all of our kids to Disneyland.
I'm not asking you to afford it. I'm putting out the edict that our church try and make it happen.
Oh, okay. All right, I'll let you know.
We once sent, when I was working at 102nd Street School, in one day, I brought out I collect watermelons. I brought out all my watermelon vessels. And in that morning, we were collecting to try and send kids from my school to Florida to Disney World. And in one morning, we got $2,000 that morning. So our church is wealthy enough to make things like that happen. And I am passionate enough about that to make something like that happen. So let's work on getting kids to Disneyland, as my children were just down here gallivanting around all places. So anyway, that's why I'm asking. I know that kind of funding would be very difficult.
Well, thank you, Sheila. Thank you.
Mhm. You're doing great work. And I've followed you for years, as you know, so.
Yes, thank you.
Basically because of Lynn Thompson, so.
Yes.
Anyway. And for those of you that don't know, Lynn Thompson was the one that started the alternative Christmas fair at our church. And she's not even a member. Anyway, that's all.
Speaking of the alternative Christmas fair, All Peoples is one of the 5 organizations that we will be donating to.
Good.
So that keep that in mind when you fill out the little menu things. About too late. Diane Carter is going to be our sort of expert on All Peoples. So if you got any questions, like Diane.
Okay. Yes, where exactly are you located?
We are at 822 East 20th Street. We are 1 block south of Washington Boulevard, off of San Pedro Street, right where the blue line, actually the blue line stop is right near us. As well as the Metro bus and all those.
There's a King's Taco and.
King Taco.
What King Taco? Anyone know about King Taco? We all live in Atlanta. Yeah, all the way to LA and then South Central, there are King Tacos, and it's kind of a chain of great Mexican food. I used to go there on board meetings,
Yes.
I'd just like to say that, we came down with Rich to visit the facility. I would advise people to do that. It's pretty incredible what you have there.
And actually, I forgot to mention, we are almost finished. We had to do an ADA upgrade. If you could imagine doing an ADA upgrade in the middle of all of this year we started, and we still stayed open, so we had to work around that. But we will have an elevator in December, but everything is now ADA accessible. Our entire kitchen was gutted and redone to be ADA accessible, as well as our bathrooms. So I invite you to come down after, maybe next year, early next year, so then you can see all of the changes that have occurred, with outdoor ramps and everything. And Rich knows he had to walk upstairs to the board meeting, now he can take the elevator.
Yeah, tour idea, I've told the social action board that I'm still a member of, that we would, if they wanted to, I would organize a tour, and I haven't talked to Sandy about this, but maybe even a bigger tour. Expand it to a whole church or just an ADA.
Oh, sure, yeah, that would be great. Yes, so, yes.
Would you tell me about Camp Joe I? Is it on your campus or is it out?
No, the Camp Joe Ide is actually a residential camp. It is at Loch Levin Conference Center, which is the Disciples Camp and Conference Center. We just were able to go back this year. We could not go for 2 years because of COVID, because the camp was closed. So we usually take 65 youth to camp. This year, we only took 35 because this is the first time going back, taking kids away from home for a week and COVID and all of that. But it is a wonderful experience for our kids. This was our 69th year, I think, taking kids to camp.
And the ages of the
The
children?
ages are 8 to 12, and then we also took, this year, we took 15, what we call counselors in training, and those are our high school students. And so they go in order to help and assist in the program. So, yeah, anyone that's ever been to camp, that's a lifelong memory that you just never forget. That camping experience. And for some of our kids, it's the first time out of the city, and away from the asphalt and the buildings and helicopters and all of those things, but just being able to, be out in nature. And they're in cabins, but they do spend one night sleeping outside underneath the stars. So it's a great experience.
Sandy,
Yes.
you told in one of the things that I heard speak about the mothers of the children who decided they wanted to have a mother's camp.
Exactly, and that was the group, our Mehor group, that I was talking about, because that came from them. Is their children are going to camp every year, and they're like, well, we want to go. And so that's how we started the family camp. So that our families, and the family camp is kind of like a communication bonding weekend for families. Our social worker and camp director, Julio Ramos, he meets with the fathers, and our other social worker, Leticia, meets with the mothers. So they have, kind of private group meeting sessions. And then our other youth staff meet with the youth. And then they have this time of bringing their family together for them to be able to share. And that's a very heartwarming and emotional time, because when you're away from the distractions of the city and phones and all of those things, parents were able to share. And for example, a father said, I know it feels like I'm hard on you all the time, but I'm afraid for you. And sometimes my reactions are out of fear and because I want to protect you. And so it's really a great experience for our families to learn how to communicate with each other in a safe environment, and that safe environment being that group, the whole group together. So, and we call that our Den Roberts camp, because Den Roberts, who was my predecessor and also pastor of the church, was into transactional analysis and was a therapist. And so this would be a part of something that I could see him doing, is bringing what he brought to our community, the South LA community, was an openness about therapy is something that's not taboo, and that it's okay to talk about your feelings and to be able to share with one another. So the family camp is in his honor for that reason.
How long have I known you? You remember?
Oh, 10, no, 12, maybe?
Maybe even longer than that.
Yeah,
I was on the board for 8 years, and I've been off the board for 5. And
Oh,
I met you
gosh.
probably
Oh,
10 years before that.
Oh,
I was scanning the LA Times probably 30, 25 years ago, and there was a little article in what's called the Metro section, or California section, about this woman who lived in South Central LA, who was the director of a community center. And it was telling about all the things they did. And at that time I was teaching an urban communities class. And I thought, good speaker to speak for this today. So I called, and sure enough, she showed up. And I think you can see why I was lucky that day to read the paper. And secondly, to contact or continue to have communication with Sandy. I was on their board for 8 years, and I went off about 5 or 6 years ago, I think. And one of the things that really struck me was how it's grown since I was on the board. We were struggling for $1 million budget. There were probably 25 full-time faculty, or not faculty, but staff. And the building has had a lot of problems with it. I think that it sounds like a lot of those have been.
Yes.
fixed up too. So anyway, a reminder again, All Peoples is one of the 5 on the alternative Christmas fair menu. And we've given to them last year. And we've also given them special grants for special projects prior to that. So let's continue to do that. Any thanks?
Thank you all.
You didn't mention the garden, or they mentioned the.
So much to talk about.
Yeah, so much. Also the daycare center.
Oh, sorry. Daycare center for children 2 to 5 years old. It's full daycare as well as half day state preschool. And that actually, those numbers were down to, they only allowed 17 during COVID. And so now we're back up to about 47. 57, I think, is the maximum. And then we do have our South Central Farm that is directly across the street. It's about a 6,000 square foot area. We have 24 beds. 23 of those beds are for the families, and then 1 bed is for the youth. So each family decides wherever they want to grow, and we have classes, and they have their own kind of organization that receives applications for working in the garden. And part of that whole food security program, the garden is a part of that. And what will happen is we're trying to look at expanding, not to add beds, but to expand so that people that are able to grow at home can take advantage of the workshops and the soil and the different programs. So yes, so you guys have to come and visit because it's too much to talk about. We don't have any music programs. No, that's the one thing. We don't have any music programs. Primarily the focus on art because one of our staff is a muralist, and then we have a partner who works with Art Active, and they provide art classes as well.
You want to see the garden, there's a great mural also on the wall, one of the sides of the garden.
And in the building, there are murals all over. And actually, when on the video, that's our walkway where we saw the murals and everything like that. So yes, we believe in painting all over the wall.
One of the things that
Didn't, just as an aside, didn't we pass the arts and music education proposition on the thing? Maybe that's good funding that can come that direction.
I think that's for schools. I think that proposition was for school programs, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay. Anyway.
My students that are relatively new ministers have been emphasizing getting people out and doing things in the community and volunteering and time. All Peoples is kind of a long distance from here, but occasionally there are opportunities if anyone wants to volunteer there, do something, wait on other Thanksgiving dinner, Christmas dinner, or start the back to school dinner.
Thanksgiving dinner is actually on Wednesday, so that's coming up. But what I will say, what we're trying to do with Capri, who you saw in the video, is to expand to do Saturday. And once we kind of get that up and running, we are going to need volunteers for Saturday. So I'll make sure to reach out to Rich and let him know what we have available.
How many do you usually, I mean, in a non-COVID year?
And well, for our Thanksgiving dinner, and it's up to 1,000, from anywhere from 800 to 1,000 people for Thanksgiving dinner, because that's a sit-down dinner. What we're doing this year, because of COVID, we're actually serving the meal in a takeout container. And we're setting up for less people, so if people are not, if people are not comfortable with sitting down in an auditorium, they can just take their Thanksgiving dinner with them. That was, I've been on vacation, that was the plan when I left, so.
Should go to New Orleans with you, absolutely.
Yes, I was celebrating my 37th anniversary. So that was a good one. Yeah.
Okay. Sandy, thank you again.
Thank you.
You worked too hard last night.
It was great. We're gonna have a discussion about gratitude because it's the Sunday before Thanksgiving.
Say again, you couldn't hear you.
We're gonna be talking and discussing gratitude.
It's very special.
Yeah, finally, we was gratitude is very familiar with any of you attended last night, and you attend for the annual Thanksgiving dinner with the Pacifica